Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Layla, and for today's video, I'm going to give you all a breakdown of the 8 stages of financial independence. I wasn't too sure what to call this video or how to say the intro because I've seen these things shown as the 8 stages of wealth or stages of wealth. You're going to see different ones across the internet, but I've also seen it as the different stages of financial independence. So basically from 0 to financial independence or full retirement. However, I remember when I was first learning about finances and really getting into learning how to invest and getting more excited about paying down my debt, starting that whole journey, I used to love hearing this type of content or reading this type of content. So anytime a podcast would talk about the stages of wealth or the stages of financial independence, I was 100% listening to it because I just found it so interesting for some reason. Even still, I think it's cool to look at because at different ages, different stages in your life, you are going to be in different stages of financial independence. So it's interesting to look back on my journey because I've been at stage 0 and I've been at stage 1 and everything before where I'm currently at, which I will talk about. So I'm just going to kind of run through these and share a little bit about each. I will talk about which stage I am in and where I want to get to, where I see myself getting to. But also, I think this is a great tool to see where you're currently at on your financial independence journey. All right, this actually starts at stage 0, and stage 0 is being dependent. Now, this could look like a couple of things. So you may be a dependent, like you are 16, 17 years old, and you are dependent on your parents for quite a few things. So you are living in their home, they are covering your insurance, they're covering a lot of things. And maybe you have a part-time job, but you are primarily being dependent on somebody else. However, you could also be dependent if you are relying on debt to pay for things. So you may not have an emergency fund right now. You're really kind of having a hard time not going into further debt and getting ahead. So you would be dependent in that way. And no matter what, all of us start here, So there could be somebody who is not dependent by the age of 15, like they're just working on their own. They're completely on their own because their parents passed away or something happened. They moved out at a really young age. That's obviously fairly rare, but we've all been dependents at some point in our life, even if it's when we were a child. We had to have somebody else paying for the roof over our head, somebody else paying for the food that we're eating, and then eventually we can get up to stage 1. Stage 1, I don't really have a name for, but I would say it's the point where you start becoming more aware of your finances. So I would say it's like your turning point. You have more clarity about your situation and where you want to go. But right now in stage 1, you might be living paycheck to paycheck and you recognize that things need to change. In stage 1, you would be aware of where your money is going. So you are starting to track your spending. You have gone back a few months and looked at where you've been putting your money. And again, recognizing the problem, recognizing that something needs to change. You are aware of your debt. If you have debt, you have all that organized and who you owe, how much you owe, the minimum payments, the interest rate, all of that you have laid out and you're aware of. And hopefully you have started to make a plan. So maybe you have started budgeting, you came up with the debt plan that you want to follow, debt avalanche, debt snowball, or some other form. You see that you need to make X amount of dollars. So maybe you started working on a side hustle or picked up a part-time job in the meantime so that you can stop living paycheck to paycheck and break that cycle, but you're still kind of in that. Stage 2 is really being self-sufficient and having stability in your life, in your financial life. So at this point, you would not be going into further debt. You're probably actually putting extra to your debts and you have that plan established and you're actually working toward that. You are no longer living paycheck to paycheck. You have a little bit left over so that you can put money to savings or you have a savings established. And then you could potentially be putting more to your debts. And then you're probably seeing quite a bit of progress. So you are paying down debt slowly each month, you're seeing your savings go up, you at least probably feel like you are making progress even as a person with your finances. So it could be you are gaining a lot of knowledge about personal finances and what it is that you want out of life. You are starting to grasp the information a little bit further. And I think with this stage, there's even like further stages within it. So if I use myself as an example, I feel like I was at stage 2 for the whole time I was paying down my debt. So I would say for like a solid 5 years, I was in this stage because I was making progress on my debt. I was no longer going into further debt, but that started back in 2018. And back in 2018, I maybe was only able to put an extra $25 to my debt, or I would have a little bit of savings, but it would go away once an emergency came up, but I was okay. Like I was able to cover that emergency, keep on paying my bills, avoid going into further debt, but then I had to work slowly to build that emergency fund back up and then get back to paying extra debt payments. But then later on, like once we got into 2020, 2021, and obviously more recently, things really escalated. So I was able to put $1,000 per month to my debt, or even sometimes over $2,000 per month, because I started just progressing. You know, my income went up. Because I was paying my debt down, I had less payments that I needed to make, so I was able to roll more into the current debt that I was working toward. I didn't have to pay as much interest on my debts, and it just slowly got easier, even though I was still in that same stage. So it's pretty interesting to think about how you can break that down even further and be like in stage 2.5, for example, and 2.8. Stage number 3 is debt freedom / breathing room. Now, this is going to be different for everyone because, for example, myself, I am debt-free, but I don't have a mortgage. So there's a lot of people who may be consumer debt-free and student loan debt-free, but they still have a mortgage. And I think at this point, you would also be in stage 3, or obviously potentially further along, depending on what we go through after this. There are also a lot of people who just never had consumer debt or anything like that. So you kind of like skip around and see where you fit in. But debt freedom is a stage that I recently reached. And at this point, once you reach this stage, if you were working a second job or you were doing some side hustles, you could probably stop those things. Now, if you had the second job, I could definitely understand why you wanted to stop doing those things. But many times we start picking up side hustles and really enjoy those. So for example, myself, I have this side business, and just because I've reached debt freedom, I'm not going to stop because I eventually want to take it full time, and it obviously supplements my income and just helps me overall. But once you reach debt freedom, or this point where you just feel like you have a lot more breathing room in your finances, you definitely have a lot more options that open up to you. Your money can also start going to other goals at this point. Now, I will say back in stage 2, you can still put your money to other goals. Y'all know that while I was paying off my debt, I was still investing, I was still saving for things that I wanted to purchase or traveling. But now that that debt's not there, it's not in the way of all of your other financial goals, so you can really start investing heavily or saving heavily. And I've said this a lot throughout my journey or more recently, because before it was like I was paying for my past. So when you're paying down your debt, it's paying for past choices that you made, past financial decisions that you made. And once it's all gone and paid off, you can now really focus on putting money toward your future. Stage number 4, I'm not really sure what to call this one, but I'm just gonna say much more stability, like a strong sense of stability with your finances. And I feel like you move from stage 3 to stage 4 very quickly. Stage 4, money just feels so much easier. I would say this is the stage that I am at right now, and I just feel so much lighter. Like I'm not stressed about spending an extra $10 on going out to eat or something. I'm not gonna worry about some small fee that comes up. Like I'm still gonna try to, I'm not gonna try to avoid that first of all. And if something comes up, yes, I will do what I need to like get a reimbursement or something like that. But it's not something that would like really heavily bother me like it did in the past. Cause I'm like, oh, that $50 that I spent here could have been to my debt. And now I feel so much lighter. I also got here very quickly. So I recently reached debt freedom. Y'all know that that was back in March of 2023. And I feel like the following month I got to stage 4 where I felt like this, like money just got so much easier because instead of me putting $1,000, $2,000 or more to my debt, I can put that to investing. I just have so many more options open to me. Definitely comes with an improved money mindset, which overall has just helped me to attract more money. I now feel like making money is even easier. Managing money feels easier. Just everything about this stage, like my mindset around money has completely shifted, and that really accelerated once I was done with my debt. This is also the point where you have, like I said, much more stability. So this would be like having an established emergency fund or just feeling much more comfortable with your situation so that if something big did happen, like an emergency popped up or you lost your job, you would be okay. It may not be like, oh, I don't need to apply to any jobs or anything, like I don't need to replace that income. But if something happens, there's no reason to panic because you know you have money saved, or you know that you have options out there, opportunities out there to replace that income. And it doesn't feel like back in the day where if an emergency popped up, you were like literally losing sleep at night. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Stage 4, it feels pretty good to be here, but I am so excited to get to the next stages. So stage number 5, I've seen this called like a few different things, so I'm gonna say them all. But at stage number 5, this would be like having FU money or having a lot more security in your finances, and also just much more flexibility with what you want to do with your life. You do have many options open to you. And this is because you would have like 1 to 2 years of money saved or 1 to 2 years of money invested. The phrase FU money, that literally means like if you wanted to quit your job, you could quit your job, no problem. You could like be like, F you, I'm out of here type of thing. Obviously, I don't recommend that. Nobody really recommends that. But if something came up where you had to do that, you easily could, and you would feel much more comfortable at stage 5 doing that. You could also take a sabbatical during this time, which many people do, so you have enough money saved up to support yourself, or like myself, this is the next stage that I'm working toward, where I'm trying to save up money so that I can take a entrepreneurial sabbatical, and that would be me taking my business full-time and trying that out, but not having to rely on W-2 incomes. It could definitely be a combination of things here, so you have enough savings, but maybe you have like a side hustle that you could use to support yourself. But even if you didn't have the side hustle, like if you just had a bunch of cash saved up, you could be a little bit more relaxed about applying to jobs and not feel so rushed into it. So take a little bit of downtime if you needed to, or be more picky about the job that you are selecting. Stage 6, I'm gonna call financial independence. So this is just like the FI part of FIRE, financial independence, retire early. And I would say at this stage, you could also hit semi-retirement. And I think what would fit under here is the varieties of financial independence where you usually have some income coming in. So this could be like Coast-Fi, Barista-Fi, Lean-Fi. You have reached a level of financial independence, but you're either living very mindfully and having to pay attention to your finances a little bit tighter. So this would be like Lean-Fi. You have enough money to live off of, but you have to really pay attention to your budget and potentially, work a little bit so that you can bring in some income. Barista-Fi is kind of the same idea. So you're using some of your portfolio to live off of, but also working a part-time job. And this could be a little bit more enjoyable for you, something that you don't mind going into a couple times a week and are able to support yourself that way. And then Coast-Fi, where you are still working, but you have enough money invested that you don't need to put anything else to your investments, but your money will grow over the next few decades until you reach traditional retirement age, and you will have enough at that point to completely retire. If you don't know what I'm talking about with financial independence or Coast-Fi, any of these, I do have several videos with all the different varieties of the FIRE movement, so definitely check those out. But yeah, I would say here you have some level of financial independence, which is a great place to be at, but you have even more options. With each stage, more options and opportunities open up to you. So that could be working at a part-time job, like I said, or doing some work that is maybe less income. It could be a full-time job, but it's less income. However, it's more fulfilling to you, or maybe taking on a business, becoming self-employed and going after something that you're much more passionate about. And, you know, people at this stage are still investing. You could still be investing. And sometimes if you're like lean fire, you are no longer investing, but you're just living a little bit tighter. And then we have stage number 7, the final stage, which I would say is just full retirement. You are all set. So at this stage, basically to summarize it, you would no longer need to work. You no longer need an income to support yourself because you are able to live off your investment portfolio. Now, people could still be at this stage. You would be able to be fully retired, but still working because you want to, but you really don't have to if you don't want to, you know? Like if you stopped working tomorrow while in stage 7, you'd be fine. Like you don't have anything to stress about or worry about. You probably have less bills at this point. Maybe your mortgage is completely paid off and you just are paying like taxes and stuff like that, which of course, if that's the case, it makes it much easier to live off of your portfolio. I know for a couple of these stages, especially with number 7, I'm saying like you have nothing to worry about, but that's always a risk at all of the stages. Like even if you have so much money saved up for in the stage where you're at like FU money, something major could happen, like a major medical emergency, or something could come up where it does deplete a lot of your funds and you have to return back to work, or you could completely retire and same thing, like a big thing comes up and it's hard for you to live off of your portfolio. But this is kind of just a simple breakdown of what you can kind of expect on the journey to true financial independence. I find these really exciting and just fun to kind of see where you're at, see where you want to go, and kind of how long it would take you to get there. But of course, I would like to say that you're not going to necessarily be a perfect fit in any of these. It just depends on your situation. And it also may not be a perfect progression. You know, you could go from stage 0, 1, 2, 3, but then have to fall back to stage 2 or whatever the case may be. And that is normal as well. Finances are definitely a journey, just like the stock market. It's going up, it's going down, it's going up, it's going down, and we can expect that in our life too. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up so y'all know that it's not like a super structured thing where you need to be perfect and go from stage 0 to 7 in perfect order. But yeah, hopefully you found this interesting. Comment down below which stage you are currently in. Or I think it would even be interesting to see how long you were in each stage. So how long were you at stage 0 and stage 1? And how long did it take you to go from stage 2 to stage 3, that sort of thing. Everybody is different, of course, but I think it can kind of give people an expectation. You know, it took me 5 years to go from stage 2 to stage 3, but then it took me like 1 month to go from stage 3 to stage 4. And now that I'm at stage 4, I think it's going to take me a couple of years to get to 5, and then we'll see from there. But thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. It really supports my channel, and I'll see you in my next video.